So I just wanted to break down my recent short film, Anything for the Art. There's a couple shots that I tested out this new plugin called Dehancer film emulation here on this film. So I have a few shots here. We're going to do a little breakdown. Now, Dehancer didn't pay me to use it to say anything. This is just asked me to review the product, as well as they gave us a little gift at the end that I'll reveal after we do this breakdown, kind of show you what all this product has to offer, especially for filmmakers on a budget. This is something that's really cool, and it gives you a nice taste of what you can do with film without having to buy a film camera. So with this first shot, we could see here that there's some nice highlights here off the edge of the car. So wherever light hits in these frames, not only does the certain film stocks that you choose will allow you to capture the light and kind of give it a little character. Now, I like to use Cine Still 800, and that kind of gives me a nice flat profile, but also doesn't take away from the grade I've already done underneath it. So I do a basic grade and I just start to fiddle with temperatures and things like that and allow the film to add the extra sauce to it. But like on the edges here, we can see the different blooming highlight features, and then a slight distortion on the edges. That's where like the halation and the blooming feature comes in. Now in this frame, it's not as obvious. I'll show you a different one. I really like the character in this shot where you can see all the things that happen here. So there's a few ways we could break this down. So the halation is like that reddish glow, especially around neon lights. That's why I really like some of these locations that I chose. This is just in town, not too far from where I live. There's like a nice industrial street that has like all the fast food places, where anywhere you can find a neon sign. And that's where you can really tell how film reacts to light, is if you can get around anywhere that has neon lights, different colors, and just see those different flares. So at the top of this like Brahm sign here, you can see the flare. So that reddish glow, that's called halation. And in certain, I think you can change the temperatures in Dehancer. I didn't really mess with it because I already had it toned to what I liked. And I like the little reddish flares to it. But you can see, like, even with the stoplight or this street light, you see the flares there, the glows there. And then I really like this like two-tone feature happening on the McDonald's sign, where you can just see it has a regular sign and then it goes to blooming it out a little extra, kind of giving that was halftone look. Super tight. I like that. And then the way the light is hitting these reflections off this hood of the car, where you kind of get the double layer there, but also it's still blooming and give you that nice halation on the hood. And this is all just because of the different features that you can use. And even on the stop sign, or the stoplight there, you can see the big bloom around the red lights. And there's another feature that I like. I really like messing with the film damage of some of these. So in this little corner here, it's as if you can see, like, if it was scanned and there's like little hairs in the scans, you can see that there and there. I think that just adds a nice little character, because when you play it through, it starts to like flicker around the screen. So it's like, it gives a little bit of more of a natural experience. Like, say you were to blow this up on a movie screen, you can see that as well. I really enjoy that look. It's just something that is enjoyable in my taste. And what's really nice about what Dehancer does well, if you have anything that is white or any sort of white text, it really captures it, and it really pulls out the bloom in halftones, and you can really see how halation really affects the image. So along the fringes of these letters, you see it's red, but it has that nice reddish glow or orangish glow. And that's where that halation is really shining. I like to find mine. So my sweet spot is about 35 millimeter is nice for me. If I did 16, it just blows it out. It looks a little too much, a little intense, but 35 is probably my sweet spot. That's where I like to put my halation at. And then blooming, it just depends on how your lights are showing, and it's not as obvious a lot of times with the bloom feature, and I really like that. So Dehancer is a nice plugin, especially when you want to level up your films, especially your short films. And so here is a little walk-in. I recorded my editing, or how I graded this. So I started out with like a flat. I scrolled through. I already know the film stocks that I like. The one that I really like is I like to start with, is called Cine Still 800. and that one somewhat has a little flavor to it, but it's a nice subtle flat grade where you still start to see where the potential of the color could go. And so after I picked my film stock, so what happens with like Sony footage, it tends to get a little too bright, so I underexpose in my base grade, and then when I go back in with the Cinestill film emulation, I then like to overexpose or mess with the exposure and kind of bring those back up, because I want to have my shadows a little richer, but also whenever you add like green, you can still get some of that texture in there. So after that, I get into the grain size. And usually if you want the grain to be obvious, I kind of bump up the amount, but try to be careful with the size, because if you overdo it, it turns your film into like a mushy mess. But messing around with the film grain is really nice, because you just start to see it. When you start messing with it, you can see your image start to react. It's like a science experiment. And so how I usually like to go with my grade is when I start with the amount, it all slowly kind of cascades down like a slope. And everything, like the shadows, I kind of boost those up a little bit so you can still get that character in there. Then after I mess with the grain, that's when I step into the halation. And that's where I figure out how much do I want to show, how obvious do I want it to be. And I scrubbed through, usually where I scrub to frames that have more light, especially something that has white text on the screen, because that's where halation is very obvious, because it'll take the white glow and it gives us a nice red outline to it. And then you'll start to see how it really affects an image. As a lot of times it can be very subtle if there's no light there. And then after I mess with the halation, get that to my liking, I go through the bloom, and that's what I was talking about the different lens options. So 35 is where it's subtle enough to where it still pops off, but it's not too in your face, or it doesn't feel like you have blurry vision. If you start bumping down to like the 16 and the 8mm, that makes things really glowy. And if you want a dream look, those are probably the ones you can mess with. And then I usually set my amplification between 40 and 60 depending on the shot. That's usually where like I get a nice consistent bloom there. And I usually fiddle with the vignetting a little bit where it's not too obvious, but I still like the little dark corners. It's nice. But my favorite part is adding the dust particles and changing the sizes with those, adding a little of the hair particles. It's a nice character to your film and your image. It's really fun to mess with and to see all that come together. And then I like to scrub back through and to see how all the rest of the film is reacting, because sometimes some are shot in darker settings and others, some have different light changes, light temperatures. So I want to make sure everything kind of has a more consistent flow. It all still looks good together. What is very impressive about their mobile app, it is very responsive. Like I can scrub through my footage while I'm editing, while I'm color grading my footage, and it's not super laggy. And it's really nice. The only downside about Dehancer is the export times, because it's doing a lot of respectfully, it's doing a lot of processing depending how long your film is. Now this film was like 3.5 minutes, and so it took about 20 minutes to export, and I usually try to export it at the highest setting. There's ways you could do it shorter or lighter, but I usually make sure to get the nice resolution, because when I post it on YouTube, the compression can affect it sometimes too. So you want to give it as much information as it can so it doesn't shrink down or flatten your image too much. But Dehancer is super powerful. It's something that you should, I'd recommend you give it a shot for yourself and see what you think about it. It's really cool. I dig it. It's something that's flavorful and there's a lot to offer there with Dehancer. So remember that you get a free week trial when you use the mobile app, and then if you use code Groovy if you're using your editing software for a desktop, you can get 10% off your purchase. So that helps the channel out a little bit, so we can keep making these videos and we're progressing together as we try to make this full time. and want to share all the tools that he can, because I'm all about budget filmmaking. And if I can get a look without having to drop thousands of dollars, I'm all for it. So thank you to the team over at Dehancer for giving us this opportunity to test out this wonderful software. It's really cool. I dig it. And it's just a nice addition to the tools that I have, because I can export a video off my computer. And then if I want to edit and post it on my phone, I just pull up Dehancer, run it through, and then I'm able to post it right to my socials from there. So that's all I got for y'all today. It's your boy Groovy Fu. I'm gonna catch you later. Peace.